to a very special edition of the S&D Podcast show on the Schmuck Sports Network. Steven is here. Dan's over there.
Hey, what's up? How's it going?
And I know Dan is excited for this.
Yes, the moment we've all been waiting for. Football season is upon us. We're recording on Tuesday night.
August 27th. Yes.
We are 9 days away from the season starting. So we're going to have a fun, awesome show.
Or if you want to say for the locals, we're Tom Brady days away from starting.
12 days. Oh, yeah, okay. For the every other team other than the Broncos and Ravens.
We'll call it the Drew Brees until the NFL season starts.
Okay.
How about that? Because there's another number 9 we both don't want to talk about.
Okay. We can do that as well. But we're going to have a fun show tonight. We're going to have our good friend Andy, who normally does Eyes on Isles. It's going to be interesting to see what Andy knows about NFL football. He is a Dolphins fan, so we're going to bring him in.
He's going to do the
AFC predictions, and we're going to have Steve's boss, Ian, to talk about the Giants again for the draft party. Right. He's going to talk about the Giants and the NFC. So sit back and enjoy the show. And
it's a packed show. Basically, what we're going to do with them is Ian will do Giants and the NFC, along with his playoff, all NFL playoff prediction and Super Bowl prediction. Andy will be, quote-unquote, Dolphins, AFC, and also playoff and Super Bowl prediction. And at the end, Dan and I will, in our outro later, our ending, Dan and I will give our predictions as well. So maybe even Dan in our outro we'll talk a little college football, since college football does start this week.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
We'll talk a little bit of college football. So sit back, enjoy a little bit more of With a Vengeance by Division 1.1, and we'll be right back. And welcome back to the S&D Podcast show on the Schmuck Sports Network. This is the football preview show with Steven and Dan. Once again, that was Division 1.1 with a Vengeance. Now we're going to talk some AFC football with our good friend from Eyes on Isles.
What's going on tonight, Andy? We're talking about another sport other than your beloved hockey.
Yes, I know. I don't know what people are going to be thinking. They're going to be thinking I'm a traitor or something.
Are you feeling okay?
Either that, or they're not going to, or they're going to definitely know that I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. One or the other.
It's going to be like that when I'm invited down to your. Hopefully, I'm not going to say anything. It's going to be me when I'm talking hockey on a random podcast. But welcome aboard.
How you guys doing tonight?
We're doing good.
We're going to have Andy spread his fins.
His fins, yeah. If you didn't get the reference, Andy is a Dolphin.
Wow. He's here all day, folks. With your waitress.
Yeah, Andy, I think this is gonna be a little redundant question. There's either one or two ways of how you became a Dolphins fan, and let's see how old you are with this answer.
Oh, damn the age
thing. Is it
right,
because of the 72 Dolphins or because of Dan Marino? Which one is it?
I'm going to say neither. I'm going to say Marino's a close second. I'm going to say, Dan's a close second. He's obviously one of my favorite athletes of all time. But it was to piss my father.
He's a big Jeff fan.
That's really what it was. I was like 7 or 8 years old, and my dad was a huge Jets fan, and he had taken me to a Jets-Dolphins game at Shea Stadium when the Jets used to play at Shea Stadium. And that's how old I am. And, I did it to just really annoy him. I had so much fun seeing him get so upset that his pride and joy wasn't a Jets fan like he was. And I just kind of started digging the Dolphins from that point on. It was really that simple.
All right, fair enough. You shocked me just now. Okay, good. Awesome. I was expecting one or the other, and we're going to gauge how old Andy is. Just kidding, Andy. Anyway, that's actually a good reason. I was expecting, in the 80s when I was running wild, Dan Marino was the reason why I became the Dolphins fan. Anyway, what do you think the Dolphins are going to be this year? A lot of talk this year.
I think, I'll tell you something. Preseason, I've never placed too much emphasis on the NFL preseason. Obviously, starters playing a couple of series in the first couple of games, and they progress to maybe a half, maybe 3/4 by the end. But at the end of the day, a 1-3 record in the preseason does not concern me. I'll tell you that Ryan Tannehill's looked really good in his brief appearances this preseason. He's looked a lot sharper than last year, a lot crisper. The last couple of games, he's kind of quelled the fan panic by hooking up with Mike Wallace, not only in practice but in games. Wallace is also performing. So I think the offense is going to be much improved, but that's going to all hinge on two major factors: the offensive line, which right now is a mess, a lot of rookies, a lot of injuries, and the performance of Lamar Miller, who's pretty much being thrust into his first starting role ever. Is he going to be able to hit the tackles hard? Right. I mean, we saw Reggie Bush kind of his last 2 years on Miami transform himself from an outside runner to a between the tackles runner. And he had an extremely successful year last year, coming within 14 yards of 1,000. Is Lamar Miller going to be able to do that? He's not known to be that kind of a back. He's known to be a bruiser, kind of, a lot of feints and jukes on the outside, a lot of outside speed. So it's going to be really interesting from that.
It should. I think
see if they can kind of pass on that running game and set up Tannehill. I hope so.
I think it's going to be fun this year.
And also, I've never understood this. Somebody explain this to me, please. How the NFL makes up their schedule. Because if you look at the Dolphins coming off, based on where you finish, how do we come off
the AFC teams you play, and based on just every year they switch the NFC.
They cycle the NFC.
I mean, we come out of last year with a 7-9 record, and we have Cleveland, which is a tougher game than a lot of people think, especially on the road. Then we have Indianapolis, Atlanta, New Orleans, and Baltimore before our bye in Week 6. How at 7-9 do we get Indy, Atlanta, New Orleans, and Baltimore in weeks 2 through 5?
You get a certain AFC division that you play no matter what.
And that's crud.
You get a which means you're probably playing the North.
Yes.
That's crud.
You also get the other two AFC divisions based on
the place
where you finished in your division.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Miami come out of that first 5 before their bye at 2-3, which is going to make a lot of people a little concerned. But I can tell you that the schedule after that does lighten up because you have 2 games with Buffalo, 2 games with the Jets. You have Carolina, you have San Diego, you have Tampa Bay, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, who I think is due for a nosedive this year. Not a nosedive, but 8-8 type season. So outside of 2 games against New England, obviously, in the final week 7 through 17, the schedule does lighten up after that initial 5-game test. But I wouldn't be shocked if they come out of that at like 2-3.
Okay, yeah, I actually agree with you, Andy. I do like the Dolphins this year. Unfortunately, I don't think they're there yet for winning the division. But I do absolutely agree. I actually like Coach Philbin a lot. I love their defense. I love Cameron Wake is one of the best defensive players out there. You hit it on the head with Lamar Miller, who can he carry the load? Their backup running back is not the greatest running back. Drawing a blank. David Thomas. Yeah, Daniel Thomas.
Yep.
Yeah, I had him a couple times in a fantasy back last year, and he was pure frustration. And it's going to be interesting to see how year 2 of Ryan Tannehill progresses. They had a 1,000-yard receiver out of Brian Hartline, which no one, maybe other than Brian Hartline's mother, expected 1,000 yards out of him.
I don't even think she expected it.
They're probably not. And it was great to see. Maybe they have another slot guy, but they add Mike Wallace. The only problem with Mike Wallace that I'm kind of nervous with, can he be the all-around wide receiver? In Pittsburgh, he was pretty much the deep threat and just catching that bomb every couple of games. But I think
what people fail to realize though about Mike Wallace is he's a lot better of a possession receiver than people give him credit for. Just because he has that down the field speed and can beat a guy deep, he also has a lot of qualities in terms of yards after the catch. So he's a lot more well-rounded, I think, than people give him credit for. And the other slot guy you were mentioning in the absence of Devon Best, departure of Devon Best, your slot receiver for Miami is going to be Brandon Gibson, who they picked up from the Rams.
Yes, this is true.
He is a solid player. So I actually do like how they're building around the offense of Philbin and Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill is in that great possession of becoming one of those elite second-year quarterbacks, and he could maybe even be in that category on as the Andrew Lucks and the RG3s of the world. He has a lot of potential, and it really relies on his right arm on how great they're gonna be this year. Can they finally destroy the evil empire per se and take it? There's been a lot of talk this year because on how great they're finally starting to rebuild that team. And
Right.
other than that 1 year with Chad Pennington when they beat the Jets in the last game of the year to win the division, can they? I don't see them getting over the hump yet, but they're still building on that rebuilding process that they're so close away that if a couple bounces go their way, anything could possibly happen with this AFC.
Right. Well, it all comes down. It all comes down to, as it does every year in the AFC East for now. And anyway, right? It comes down to the New England Patriots. Right. It comes down to probably the most hated yet the most intelligent coaches easily in the league, arguably in history, in Bill Belichick. But you do have an aging Tom Brady who lost a huge safety net in Wes Welker. He's down two huge tight ends in Aaron Hernandez, who we won't even discuss, doesn't even deserve our time here, and Rob Gronkowski, whose status is still up in the air. Some people are thinking he's going to miss the first 3 to 4 weeks, which is a month of football. So, that can't be undersold in the case of New England. Can Danny Amendola stay healthy and replace Welker's production? I don't think so. So, New England is getting to that kind of Yankees.
I agree. Thing with Danny Amendola, I'm not saying he's him, but he is the poor man version of Wes Welker. Back in 2007, Wes Welker was Danny Amendola.
True.
And out of nowhere, he became Wes Welker overnight because of Tom Brady. But the thing is, with Amendola is his injury problems. He's one more big hit away from popping another collarbone. He has at least 1 or 2 of those a year, and it's for him. He just has to stay healthy, and he is able to. He was one of the best Rams. I wasn't saying much a couple years ago, but he was one of the lead receivers for the Rams for a couple weeks for him to be hurt.
Yeah, a couple of huge weeks last year.
I just see the Patriots winning the division. Do we even need to spend time on the Bills? If EJ Manuel was healthy, it maybe been a little bit more of a talk, but they have a likelihood of starting their undrafted rookie at week 1 against the Patriots, and that's not a good way to start the season. I think the Bills are going to end up in 4th place. All depends on EJ Manuel. And then the same old Jets. This year is going to be the Brian song of the Rex Ryan era. Which I want to hear your take on. You have a unique spin on almost everything when we talk about stuff in general. What's your take on the New York Jets?
Yep.
The dysfunction of the Jets.
My take on the New York Jets, they are the classic. They are the classic clown show. Every league's got one, right? I mean, every league, professional sports league, has that one franchise who just can't seem to do anything right, trips over their own feet constantly. That's the New York Jets. They should put a big top over MetLife when the Jets are playing and just call it the circus, because that's exactly what it is. Rex Ryan, what he did the other day to the media was just insulting and embarrassing for him, I think. I think he's lost control. To put Mark Sanchez in that game in the 4th quarter was just ridiculous, unless you had every intention of making Geno Smith your starter. That's the only thing I could. The only thing I could surmise out of that is that he had in his head that Geno Smith was going to start, because otherwise, if Sanchez was going to start, or at least had the inside track on starting, there's no way he's in that game in the 4th quarter. So I just think Ryan's lost all control. I think the Jets have no weapons. Braylon Edwards was released. Santonio Holmes doesn't even want to play. Like I said, it's just an absolute mess. People wonder why ESPN spends so much time talking about the Jets, because there's a lot to talk about. Unfortunately, it's all negative.
And don't forget Manish Mehta, Chris Christie's favorite beat writer for the Jets. I don't know. Did you hear about that today? Yeah, he was on Boomer Carton this week, filling in for Boomer, and yeah, and he pretty much bashed that Manish Mehta makes every story about him more times than not, and every little story becomes a firestorm, and he has to be the one to break it more times than not, and it was just a big firestorm. Daily News was all over Chris Christie and vice versa, and it was a fun one-day battle, of course, in Jetland, but it wasn't Jet-related for once. So congratulations to the Jets for having a related situation, but not player or coach-related. So that's a first. So bravo to them.
Like I said, I've tried to stay clear of the politics talk now. It's just not safe for me at this point.
Oh, fair enough. I wasn't trying to bring you in.
We're a sports show.
We weren't baiting him, but he was on Boomer and Carton, so that I was nowhere affiliated about his political views. He was literally on the show hosting. So I just found that funny that he put a beat writer in blast, but to each their own. The Jets are a joke, like we were mentioning.
All right, Andy. It's time to start throwing you under the bus.
Oh, no. Oh, boy.
We love doing that on this show.
He's do it all the time. All right, go ahead.
It's fun, so we could bring you back in December so we can make fun of you for your picks.
Fire away. Go ahead.
Okay, so we have the Pats in the AFC East.
You do remember that I had a horrendous NHL postseason, so I'm sure this isn't going to be much better. But let's get a shot anyway.
All right, we're going to stay in the East. Talk a little bit about the NFC East.
Okay.
You're on.
Okay.
We're our stuff's going later.
Who do you think is going to win the division in the AFC East or West?
East. We're doing East.
East. Okay.
Give me a division.
NFC East. Go.
NFC East. You want what? The order I think they're going to finish?
Yep.
Giants, Washington. No, Giants, Dallas, Washington, Philadelphia.
You think Giants win the division? You're going 1 through 4.
I think the Giants are primed for a huge bounce back year. Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll take Giants, Dallas, Washington.
Okay.
NFC North. Let's move to the NFC North. I'll take.
This one I find interesting. So.
I'll take Green Bay to win the division. I'll take Minnesota. I love AP, but I can't trust Christian Ponder. Detroit's defense worries me. I got Green Bay, Chicago, Detroit, Minnesota.
Okay. And AFC North.
AFC North, you want to hop to now?
Yep.
AFC North, I'll take Cincinnati, Baltimore, Cleveland, Pittsburgh.
Okay. NFC
That's a
South.
shot. NFC South. South. I think Atlanta bounces back. I think Steven Jackson's in for a huge year. I'll take Atlanta, New Orleans, Tampa Bay, Carolina.
Okay. AFC South. AFC South.
People would expect. I think Houston, Indy, Tennessee, Jacksonville. Can't see Jacksonville competing even with MJB.
Okay, so Texans are winning that division. NFC West.
NFC West, the famous crap division. NFC West. San Francisco, I think, stays on top there, followed by Seattle, Arizona, and St. Louis, I think, is in for a 3-13, 4-12 finish.
Wow.
That was interesting.
Yep.
Wow.
I surprise you all the time.
It really does. I can't wait to make fun of him for that one.
I can't wait to make fun of him for that one.
We didn't do the AFC East. You guys didn't do the AFC East. And
we'll go back. I thought you said you have the Pats.
No, the AFC East. The Patriots. Oh, yeah.
I didn't say I had the Pats.
Okay, so who do you have?
I think
It's gonna surprise us until
I think Miami gets it done. I think Miami knocks off the Pats for the division. Pats come in second, followed by the Jets and then Buffalo. The only reason I say that is because the Jets defense is so good. I think it has them in third place in the division.
Yeah. Wow, Andy.
Okay.
I think they're a year away, a couple years away. But I hope for your sake. I hope
that'll be a nice bounce back considering he says they're gonna have 2 wins in the first 6 weeks.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sticking. I've been over the schedule. I'm sticking with my Dolphins. I think they're going to go 11-5, and I think New England's going to finish 10-6. I think we'll beat them out by a game.
God, thank God you're a hockey guy, Andy.
We'll see. Smart Alec. Keep it up.
I can't wait for this at the end of the year. If they're like fighting for the division, this will be fun.
I will take you out to dinner if the Dolphins go 11-5.
Well, I can see Peter Lugas.
I will hold you to that because my famous motto is if it's free, it's for me. So
I think that's everybody's motto.
Yeah, that's everybody's motto, Andy.
Food always tastes better when it's free.
It's true.
It's true.
So
I'm making this clear. I hope Andy's right, but I don't see it.
Okay, so we did the AFC West.
We didn't do the AFC West. Okay, AFC West. I think Peyton Manning has Denver clear ahead in that division. Kansas City, San Diego, and Oakland's lucky if they win 2.
Yep.
Oh, you gave them 2 wins. Good.
Absolute mess.
But they might have Terrell Pryor, so
maybe
at the moment.
So 2 in an overtime game.
Right. I say easily 2-14 for them.
Okay.
All right, 2 AFC wildcard teams.
2 AFC wildcard teams. So my division winners are Miami.
You have Miami, Baltimore, Cincinnati, the Texans, and the Broncos.
Miami, Cincinnati, Texans, and Denver win the division. So 2 AFC wildcards. New England, and I think that Indianapolis edges Kansas City late in the season.
Okay. Now 2 NFC wildcard spots.
Okay, switching to the NFC.
Your division, you have the Giants, the Packers, the Falcons, and the Niners.
Giants, Packers, Falcons, and Niners. So they're the favorites. Wild cards. New Orleans, just because they're going to score like 867 points. With Sean Payton back, I think they'll give up 750, but they'll score 867. So I'll go New Orleans will run and gun their way into a playoff spot. And I think Seattle's a really, really good, well-rounded team. So I'll take New Orleans and Seattle.
Okay, Andy. February, whatever the date is. MetLife Stadium is playing for the Super Bowl. According
to the Farmer's Almanac, in a blizzard.
So what you're saying is Dolphins versus the Falcons.
Oh God, what an awful! The Super Bowl will never be in a cold weather spot if that ever happens.
Presentation in the Super Bowl, I think, will be Mr. Manning. I think gets his Broncos back there.
Yeah, you got to be clear about that. You have both Mannings in the Super Bowl. You have both Mannings in the playoffs.
Yeah, there's 2. That would be unbelievable to see Denver play the Giants and have the Manning brothers. That would be fantastic. But I don't think the Giants are quite a Super Bowl team this year. I think they're a division winner, but not a Super Bowl team. So I'll go Denver, and I'm actually expecting San Francisco. They're so balanced on both sides of the ball. I'm actually expecting them to make it back to the Super Bowl. So I'll go Denver and San Francisco.
All right, who wins? Yeah, we're throwing you under the bus completely.
Now, San Francisco probably could have won that game easily against Baltimore, especially the second half. They're such a good football team, but I'm hard pressed to bet against Peyton Manning.
It's a playoff, so Peyton Manning will choke. So don't worry.
I'm not necessarily sure that this time. I think he's got the. It's definitely in the realm of possibility to pull a Mark Messier. Like when Mark Messier came to the Rangers, and he was brought there for pretty much one reason.
You had to bring it back to hockey. This is why I love you.
Same thing with Manning. No, but it's a similarity that bears comparison. I think that Manning was Denver brought Manning in for one reason and one reason only, to win the Super Bowl. That's it. Not to have regular season success, not to make the playoffs, to win the Super Bowl.
Not that hard in that division to make the playoffs.
I'd be here for days.
I just think San Francisco's too good, too balanced on both sides of the ball, well coached. I think Colin Kaepernick is going to be unbelievable, even better than he was last year. Even though Crabtree's out for a while,
yeah, he's done for the year.
I think they overcome that. I'll take San Francisco.
Okay.
I have nothing against the Niners.
I like the method you're going with. They should have made the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Thank you, Kyle Williams. I'm going to make that clear.
Yep.
Then last year they make it to the Super Bowl in heartbreaking fashion 2 years in a row, losing the Super Bowl. I think this is the year they finally make it to the Super Bowl and win it. So I'm kind of agreeing with you on that point because their defense is there and their offense could be unstoppable. They just got to find the receiving core.
So Andy,
and if not, you know what? You'll just give Frank Gore 30 carries. What?
Absolutely.
That'd be it. Just give Frank Gore the ball, especially if I draft him tonight in my fantasy draft.
That's it. Just give Frank.
So Andy,
well, you can have him. I'm not drafting him. You can have him.
It depends on where I get him. So Andy, we know we took you out of your element of hockey, but this was great. Thank you for joining us.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Andy. Can't wait to see talk in a few weeks when we talk about the hockey previews.
Yes.
At that, you'll have to have me on in December to make fun of my picks I made tonight.
Of course.
We'll figure something out where we can have you on in December for hockey and football. How does that sound?
Whoa.
Ooh, that'd be like a full hour.
We'll just have the Andy special.
Yeah.
Half hour on the NHL, a half hour on the NFL.
We could. I don't see why not. See that, everybody?
Like I always say, it's your show. And we're gonna have, like I said to you guys off air, we're getting ourselves all set up at Eyes on Isles. So once that gets up and running, you guys are definitely going to be welcome guests on our show as well. So looking forward to that.
Alrighty, thank you again for joining us, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, guys. Thanks a lot. Have a good night.
Let's play a little more Division 1.1, and we'll be right back with the NFC.
SND Podcast is in no way affiliated with, associated with, produced, or endorsed by the National Football League or any of its affiliates.
Welcome back to the S&D Podcast. We have our good friend Ian coming on, talk a little bit Giant football and all around the NFL. How's it going, Ian?
Good. How you guys doing?
Great.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. We did have him for the draft special.
Yes.
And he hit it pretty well.
I did all right.
Yeah. It
was
the draft and a lot of linemen, so we didn't know who was going to like who. So
it's always unpredictable.
Yeah. So... All right, so before we start, well, we're gonna start right now. Silly me. What do you think of the upcoming season with the Giants?
I'm excited. I'm a big Giant fan. I think this year could be another 8-8, 9-7 type of year. I think they're gonna struggle a little bit on defense again. That's going to be the issue for sure. The offense is definitely going to be able to put up points. I like David Wilson a lot. Eli is going to be consistent like he always is. But the real struggles, I think, are going to come on defense for sure.
Yeah, I definitely can see where you're getting that perception because that's how it's been the last few years. I do agree with you that obviously our offense is one of the top-notch offenses if everybody's clicking and everything like that. With the secondary...
And healthy.
And healthy, yes.
Yeah, I think Nix is probably the most important player.
Nix is our most important key to this team this year, making the playoffs.
And it's a contract year.
Yeah, exactly. I want to kind of touch base with what you said with the secondary. I'm 50-50 with you on that. I know I sound a little silly because Antrell Roll messed up his ankle, but he should be ready to roll week 1. obviously the other secondary spot, you don't know if Ryan Mundy is going to be able to fill that void. I think he could possibly fill that void. I actually think our cornerbacks are going to be better, a lot better from last year's team, because we're going to have Aaron Ross back. Granted, he's not what he was supposed to be when we drafted him in the first round, but he's going to be pretty good for nickel and dime guys. So I think we're going to be fine with that. Another year with Prince knowing the system and him finally growing and maturing, maybe he could be the shutdown corner that we hoped and drafted for. He was supposed to be a top 10 pick, and his stock completely dropped. So maybe he'll take the role of the number one, and Corey Webster, who's slowly declining, but I expect a big season out of Corey Webster.
Also in a contract year.
So I think the Giants' defense is going to be a little bit more hungrier, because there's going to be guys who are contract years like Tuck, Webster, just to name a key few that's been here, and they want to stay with the Giants organization as long as they can and end their careers with Giants. So I think their defense is going to be shaky at times. Obviously, with the NFL, everybody's defense is shaky. There's the select few who's just that dominant defense.
Right.
But I really think the Giants' defense is going to be a lot better than what everybody's expected. We actually had license plate guy on a few weeks ago, and he talked up how great the defensive line is. And I absolutely agree with him, with Cullen Jenkins and Patterson, with Lavelle Joseph, and all the other guys who's been there already. And Kiwi's finally back at the end. I think our defense is going to be a lot better than what people are going to expect. The only weak link part
again is the linebacker.
But honestly, I like Jaquan, and I've said it since day one.
He has.
And he's been proving himself each year. And in a 7th round draft pick, that's a steal. I do like Dan Connor. I know I was a big Mark Herzog fan, but as the week's progressing on, Dan Connor is the absolute number one middle linebacker.
Showing his maturity.
And not only that, he is better than Chase Blackburn, as much as everybody loves Chase, but he is better than Chase Blackburn. The only other
Connors or Herzog?
Connors, yes. The only problem I'm kind of nervous about is the weak side linebacker with Rivers and the mess they're going to have. It's going to be anybody's game on being able to cover, being that cover back linebacker. I don't know what your takes on that.
I don't share your optimism when it comes to the linebacker position. I think all these guys that they have in there are all, replacement level type guys. I don't see anybody who's going to be a playmaker. I don't see anybody who's going to be a reliable run stopper. I think they're going to struggle at that position for sure.
I could see it. Out of every position on the team, that's definitely going to be the weakest link. But with our defensive line, it's going to be beefed up a little bit more than what it was in past years. That was the noticeable scars in our defense this year.
A couple of the beat writers are saying Jenkins looks like before Eagle Jenkins.
And that's amazing to have.
Yeah. Thought he was a steal when we picked him up.
Yeah, and that's amazing to see. Where our defense, especially our D tackles, are so much better than what they've been in the previous couple of years. Granted, I liked Canning, but these players are so much better than the players we had. Marvin Austin might not even make the team. Granted, he hasn't done much.
Marcus Kuhn either.
And Marcus Kuhn had a great rookie year. If it wasn't in the bum ACL against the Bengals, he probably would have been still on this team. But Demetrius Moore is on the team, D monster. He's gonna be a stud right out of the gate. So you're gonna have 3 solid pass rushers like we do notoriously for the Giants. So I honestly think the defense is gonna be a lot better than what people think.
All right, what's your take on the wide receiver core? Basically, your 3, of course, will be Nix, Cruz, and Ruben Randall.
Hopefully. I mean, hopefully Nix can stay healthy.
Right.
You said it's a contract year, so he's got to be motivated. Behind
that, where do you see him going? Murphy. They have a guy from.
Yeah, they picked up Lewis Murphy.
Right. They have Barden still.
Yeah, Barden still. I mean, you know what you're going to get from these guys. I mean, hopefully it won't come to that. Hopefully Nick stays on the field. Cruz is a little hobbled right now, but hopefully he'll be okay. I really like Ruben Randall. I think in 3 receiver sets, to have those 3 guys out there can be pretty dynamic. But again, like I said before, I think Nix is probably the most important player on this team. If he can stay healthy and produce, then this is going to be an elite offense, top 5 in the league. So, like I said, I think he's very important. If he goes down for an extended period of time, I think Ruben Randle will be able to produce, but it's definitely going to be a big hit overall for sure.
Biggest question mark I have offensively is going to be those short downs. Who's going to be the short down guy?
I mean, I like Andre Brown. I think he's a pretty decent player. I think he'll fill the role. He'll be the third down guy. He'll be short yardage and goal line. And, again, as long as he can stay healthy, I think he'll be fine in that role. Wilson, could be a star for sure. He has that elite type of talent and speed. So, I think they're going to try to have a somewhat 50-50 split in the backfield for sure. But I think hopefully Wilson will just be so good that they're just going to want to feed him the ball as much as possible. If that's the case, then, again, this can be a really, really top-end offense for sure.
I absolutely agree with him with the running game. As for the wide receivers, obviously you got the core three. I obviously think they're going to be a lot better than what the Giants were 2 years ago with Manningham. It's going to be interesting to see how good Ruben Randle is. I think he's going to be the key defector. I hate to say it, but key defector on if Hakeem Nicks comes back next year. Because he's going to be a lot more cheaper, and if he's able to be the other wide receiver with Victor Cruz, Hakeem Nicks is going to be actually gone next year. I could see that, though.
A lot of teams a lot of the NFL now is becoming a 3-receiver set.
I agree.
Cruz is, I think, a slot guy more than anything. So I think they're going to look to keep Nicks. No
of course
what.
They are, but you never know with the option of that thing. That I'm just playing devil's advocate with that sort of thing. Obviously, I want to keep Nicks here for the rest of his career, obviously, but it could be up to Ruben Randle determining if Hakeem Nicks is still a Giant this year.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they kept Nicks next year. I just think he's going to ask for too much money, and a guy with his injury history, I don't think you can pay a guy like that. I mean, you see what receivers get paid in the open market. A guy like Mike Wallace, who I don't think is as good as Nicks.
No,
doesn't have the injury history, but still, I don't think he's as good. He's getting, I think, $60 million for 5 years, something like that. So I think the market is going to probably price him out of the Giants' range, which is unfortunate. But you know what? When it comes down to it, you have a guy that in Randall that's young that you would hope would step up, and the Giants have other players that they're going to need to pay. Pierre-Paul is going to be up after next year. They're going to have to give him a big contract extension. If he has a big year this year, he's going to be probably one of the highest paid defensive players in the league.
No question about that.
No question about that. If he has the 2011 Jason Pierre-Paul.
Exactly.
Let's be
even
fair.
has a little bit of that. Even.
Oh, I know.
Not even those numbers. If he just has half of that.
Hopefully he has that.
The biggest question.
He was clearly hurt last year. There was no question about that.
Yeah, and he's hurt right now. He's still recovering from a back injury. So if he gives you double-digit sacks this year, he is going to get a huge contract extension for sure.
Okay, other than Hakeem Nicks, because I know that's going to be the answer because you already said it. Other than Hakeem Nicks, what if the Giants make the playoffs? It's because of player A. Who is it?
Well, you know what?
That is under the radar. Obviously,
I'll say this. I'll say their offensive line. I don't want to single out one guy, but I think it's going to be a group effort. They're already dealing with some injuries there. Deal's out for a little while.
Bass.
Bass is hurt. Hopefully, Pugh can step right in and play well. First round, offensive tackles. Usually, as much talent as they have, it's definitely a transition, and it usually takes time to learn how to play the position. But he is a guy that can be at multiple spots along the line, so that helps. But as a whole, the offensive line has to play well for sure. As like I said, I don't trust the defense, so I know that this team's going to be in a lot of shootouts, and I think it's going to come down to the line being able to establish a run game, and of course protect Eli, allow him to make plays.
Yeah, it's got to come down to that offensive line.
It really does come down to the offensive line, and with all the injuries, I'm seeing it I'm forecasting it now. I really hope not, but I can see with all the injuries with our line, it's going to be the declaring factor in wins or losses for the first few weeks until we get a lot of those bodies back. It's going to be interesting to see week 1 with Justin Pugh playing right tackle against the blitz-heavy Cowboys, and see how he's going to be able to handle the Cowboy pressure against Eli. They do normally get pressure to Eli. Obviously, DeMarcus Ware is one of the greatest defensive ends ever, obviously, but the whole defensive line as a whole, they do get to Eli, and it's going to be really interesting to see how Pugh gets to be thrown in the deep end his first regular season pro game. That's going to be interesting. Also, not another thing. I think Beatty's a good player. He also has to stay healthy. Mm-hmm. He hasn't been healthy the last few years. Obviously, that was a bad break 2 years ago with his eye socket. You can't ever expect that ever. But
that's a freak.
That's just one of those freak things. Last year was a couple of nagging issues.
Back, neck, all around last year.
I think the unsung hero of that O-line would have to be Kevin Booth, and he's earned his spot whenever he plays. He earns his spot, and I feel comfortable with him on if he comes in the middle of the game. Unfortunately, right now he's going to be the starting guard.
Well, he's been the starting guard.
Oh yeah, I know that.
Booth has been it since last year.
Exactly, but with Bass, who is the quote-unquote full-time starting center when he's healthy, it's going to be interesting to see. I really hope, and I see this happening. Joey Wilson has a shot of being a Pro Bowl running back this year. Yes. Hopefully he doesn't play in the Pro Bowl, but that's a different story. He has the caliber of being the Pro Bowl running back for at least one of the slots in the whatever fantasy draft they are doing for the fantasy alt Pro Bowl.
Yeah, that weird way of doing.
Pretty much that they completely stole from the NHL, which I think is a great idea. But it's
not like anybody's going to watch it anyway. So
maybe a couple people might now because it will be like a little bit different. But it is a cool idea. But it is what it is. Yeah, it is what it is. For people like us, it's going to be but I'm telling you, a lot of people are going to be excited about it.
Alrighty, and let's talk a little bit more about the NFC East in general. What's your thoughts on the other 3 teams in the division?
It's going to be a competitive division for sure. I think you have 4 solid teams. I don't think any one team really stands out above the rest. If you told me that RG3 was going to be 100% and play at a high level like he did last year before getting hurt, I would say that this is the Redskins division. But I don't think that's guaranteed. He is going to start week 1, but I think they're going to change their offense a little bit. I don't think they want him to run as much. They're going to do a lot less of the read option this year. So you don't know how that's going to change his game and, change their offense as a whole. But a good defense. They have some good playmakers on there, pretty underrated as a group. So, as a whole, the Redskins are going to be a very tough team. The Cowboys, they're going to put up points. I still don't trust their defense. They are bringing in a new scheme. They brought in Monty Kiffin, who runs the Tampa 2. He's the architect of that defense,
and they have
which
good
has been
secondary,
successful.
So
they
don't sleep on them.
The thing with the Cowboys, they always have talent, and they just don't put it together. So I don't trust Jason Garrett as a coach. I think their offense will put up points, but I don't think it'll be enough to win a lot of games this year. I could see them floating around 500. With that team, and then I think Garrett will probably be gone after this year.
I think he might not even last the half of the season.
Yeah,
just
he might.
Just the way the Cowboys are and how Jerry Jones is. They fired their defensive coordinator, mm-hmm. and they gave up the play calling to Callahan.
Yes,
who was obviously the the coach that brought the Raiders to the Super Bowl eons ago.
Well, Gruden got them to where they were. And
he was the coach, and he's a great offensive line coach with the Jets and so on. And he did coach a couple college teams. So he's going to be able to scheme a little bit better, but it really is his head on the line, Coach Garrett. So it's going to be interesting to see with the Cowboys. I'm actually with you with the Redskins to a degree. Their defense is very underrated, mm-hmm. I give you that. RG3 is one of a kind, obviously.
He's incredible.
It is pretty incredible. Last year, they just had that magical run last year.
Sure.
I think, obviously, they're going to be competitive in this division because they all beat up the crap out of each other. That's a given. I don't think Alfred Morris is going to come out of nowhere this year like he did last year. He's going to come back down to earth a little bit, and I'm with you a little bit with RG3 not running the option as much. I think they will run it, obviously, but not as much as it is. I think it's more of Pierre Garçon being healthy, and the receivers are all around it. One of the most reliable receivers they had last year was Santana Moss. How many more years does Santana Moss have anyway? It's just one of those things. This division's solely on RG3's knee. If he's healthy, he's going to win the division. If not, it's going to be up to the Giants or Cowboys with that.
Right. Interesting. I heard a fact on Alfred Morris. He was the first rookie since Eric Dickerson for 1,600 plus and 10 touchdowns in his rookie year. And in Eric Dickerson's second year, that was the year he had the
2,000 yards.
2,000 yard season.
But you got to ask yourself though. Eric Dickerson did not have I don't know the quarterback. We have to ask Adam Rank for that. A good friend of him. Eric Dickerson didn't have RG3 for him to rush all those yards. So I really end on healthy RG3. So it is going to be interesting to see what RG3 comes out week 1 against the Eagles and throughout the season. It's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, teams are scheming against RG3 and everything else like that. But I don't think Alfred Morris is Eric Dickerson. Obviously, a lot more teams would have drafted him a lot sooner than the 7th if he was Eric Dickerson. So, but it is an impressive accomplishment. So I'm not knocking it in any shape or form. But I think they're going to be knocked down a peg this year as they were last year. It was just one of those RG3 mania things, and that they just build on it every week.
Nobody was used
to it. Especially the week against the Giants. I know I'm a homer, but the Giant week, we could have easily beat them if we found a couple extra plays, and that was just a couple of games. But that's what happens when you win the division. Yeah. You get those lucky bounces. So it really is about the bounce of the ball in the division.
All right, Ian, who's winning the NFC East?
Well, the fan in me is going to say the Giants.
Okay.
But the realist in me is going to say the Redskins.
All righty. So we're going to put down the Redskins.
You can put down whoever you want.
We're going to put the Redskins for that. And now we're going to go to the other East division. Now we're going to go into the divisions. AFC East. Rank them. Rank the 4.
Well, I mean, it's the Patriots, and then there's a pretty wide drop-off. I actually like
the Pats winning that division.
I actually like the Bills.
I knew it
this year.
I knew it. I called it yesterday.
I think their defense is going to play a lot better. They do have a lot of talent there. I think Mario Williams will step up. They have some other young pieces. Marcel Darius.
Talk about a big bust last year.
Yeah, he was, but I think he'll step up and have a better year.
So you're pretty much expecting EJ Manuel to just come out on fire if they.
I like EJ Manuel. I don't expect him to come out on fire, but I like his ability to run. I think they're going to use some read option. He has good size, good speed. I don't think he's going to get beat up as much as the smaller quarterbacks do. And I think he'll do enough. And Spiller is a guy who is a unbelievable talent. And if he can stay healthy and they want to give him the ball until he throws up, like Coach Marone said, then I think that they could be a very good offense. And I would say I don't think they'll quite challenge for a playoff spot yet, but I think they're moving in the right direction.
Okay. And that leads us with the Jets. The biggest show in...
So basically you have Pats, Bills,
Dolphins.
I would say Dolphins, then
Jets.
Yeah, Jets in last place. The Jets are a mess. I mean, we could talk about the Jets all day, but
we don't have enough time in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
People don't have enough time to listen to
Kurtati band. That's what Heisen would say. It's just a dead man walking, pretty much at this point with Rex Ryan. Unfortunately, sad to say, but it's his own fault, and it's just dead man walking. It's him and Sanchez on the line after Saturday night's game. The way they acted, like the way he acted in the post game, like they won the Super Bowl. It was just one of those.
It's a joke.
It's an absolute joke. Yeah. And I'm not saying that because I'm a Giant fan. Obviously, I would have said that if they played the Cowboys.
Right.
And it's just crazy how every little story the Jets, anything Jets have in a story-related situation, they'll blow it up bajillion times. And
Of course.
and it's just one of those things. Is like, okay, can they just have a break for once, just their team to be able to play a normal 60-minute game?
Nope,
No,
it's New York.
It's impossible. It's impossible, and they have so much crap ready to go. And Geno Smith's not ready to play full time as a starting quarterback yet in the NFL. I'm sorry. It's going to be Sanchez for a little bit if he's healthy. If he's not healthy, if they really screwed him up for a couple weeks at the beginning of the season, the Jets are screwed because they cannot take out Geno Smith. It's just going to mess up his psyche, and that's not going to be a good way. You're going to essentially lose two quarterbacks.
Yeah, if Sanchez isn't healthy, then I don't think they have a choice. They have to play Smith.
Well, of course.
But he's obviously not ready. As a prospect, I think he has some potential, but he has to be groomed like all young quarterbacks. He needs good coaching. He needs good players around him, and he doesn't have that. And with the Jets' track record, I wouldn't be surprised if he ever gets that. So I don't see him really becoming a impact player. To put Sanchez out there to try to win a preseason game and get him hurt is probably one of the stupidest things that I've seen a coach do.
But they won the Snoopy Trophy.
I don't think anyone cares. I don't think anyone cares about that.
The only people that care, and I'm not trying to sound like a douche saying this, is the charity that gets the money, which is a great thing, obviously. But
sure.
From the football standpoint of things, no one cares.
No one cares. It's crazy.
And it's crazy how he flat out said, "We'll take Snoopy." Like it was like the biggest thing in the world that they won a Snoopy trophy. The Jets are just a mess. What's the next division you got for him, Steve?
Let's do NFC North.
NFC North.
You won't go team by team. Let's just get your predictions.
Okay. I'm going to say Packers, first place. I would say followed closely by the Lions and Bears and
Lions at 2. Okay, and Vikings.
Then I'll go Vikings.
Minnesota Petersons.
Yeah, I'll go Vikings.
Wow, so the Lions are actually going to be matured this year.
I think Reggie Bush is really going to help them a lot. It takes a little bit of pressure off of Stafford and Calvin. You saw in the preseason when Calvin wasn't playing, that offense really can't do anything.
No, nothing.
So, he's so important to them. I think to have a guy like Bush who, can be an effective runner, but his real strength is, catching the ball out of the backfield, I think it's going to be huge for them. And I also really like their defensive line. Fairley and Sue, tackles, are really good players. They drafted Ziggy Ansah, who's going to be a really good defensive end. You're going to be able to put pressure on the quarterback.
You're right with that, but it's all about discipline. And they had zero of it last year. Yes. They were the highest penalized team in the league. And it was just the dumbest penalties that cost them at least 3 or 4 games. And you're like, this coach should be fired. Short should be fired just for how stupid half the players were. Was it last year that Sue kicked the Packer in the nuts, or was that 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
Okay. The years are starting to combine. I'm sorry. But he does do stupid stuff. And then you're like, for a player his caliber, you don't need to be doing that.
Right. Agreed. Okay. AFC North.
AFC North. Let's go with, I want to say the Bengals. I think the Bengals, this is going to be their year to come through. I like Andy Dalton a lot, and the defense is really good. Geno Atkins is a monster. I think this is going to be their year to take that division over for what could be, a few-year stretch. Ravens will still be good for sure. I actually think Cleveland is actually improving. Norv Turner is going to be really good for that offense. As a head coach, he's terrible, but as a coordinator, he's great.
Top coordinators.
Yeah, and then I think Pittsburgh. I think they're going to take another step back this year. Roethlisberger's great, but he doesn't have a lot of work to work with on that offense. The offensive line is not improved enough. The defense is getting older. I see Pittsburgh taking a big step back this year.
Okay. All right, we're going to go down south now. We're going to start with the AFC South.
AFC South, I'm going to go with Houston to win the division again. I don't love them this year, but I still think they're the best team in that division. I don't think the Colts did enough on defense to really improve. Although Luck, I think, is going to be a great player, and I think he's going to make big strides this year. I could see them making a run at a wild card again, but I think Houston will have this division locked up, and then probably Tennessee, and then I can't see Jacksonville
doing anything,
being able to dig out of last place. I just can't see that happening again.
Going for the quarterback pick, huh?
Listen,
you mean Blaine Gabbert's not going to help them win anything?
Blaine Gabbert, I don't blame him. Should never have been drafted that high.
He was what, 10, 11, something like that?
I think 10th overall, and which was crazy at the time. They threw him in there with not a lot, and he wasn't ready. And you're seeing the outcome of that.
Ready. NFC South.
NFC South. I'm gonna say the Saints. I think the Saints. I think the Saints are gonna be awesome this year. I think Breeze and Peyton are gonna be just in total FU mode and just try to score 50 points a game.
I agree.
Their defense is gonna suck again for sure. Like it's they don't have a lot of talent. They're switching over to a 3-4, and they brought in Rob Ryan, who I don't really think is a very good coach. I don't think he's done really anything to warrant keep getting jobs over and over again.
It's because of his name.
I guess so. But I think that offense is just going to be tremendous this year. I love the Saints. After that, I would go Tampa Bay.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think they brought in some pieces on defense. Bringing in Revis, I think, is huge. They were already a really good run defense. What Revis can do. He's a proven player, so he's going to help the pass defense. They're going to be much improved. I think it all depends on Josh Freeman, how far they go, whether they're potentially 6-10 team or maybe a 10-6, 11-5 team. It all depends on Freeman and how well he performs, because he has weapons, he has a solid offensive line. So I don't think there's any excuses for him this year. If he doesn't perform, then I think they'll probably move on.
Okay.
After that, I would say Atlanta. I think they're going to take a step back.
Really?
Also this year.
Probably the only person.
Yeah, I don't love the Falcons this year.
I don't love the Falcons either, but I think they're a lot better than the Buccaneers. That's just.
I think I don't trust their defense. Matt Ryan is a great player, and he has a lot of weapons. They brought in Steven Jackson. He's going to produce better than Michael Turner did last year, that's for sure, because Turner was done. But I don't see him really being a game changer for them. He's 30 years old. I think he's lost a step. I don't think he's going to be quite the difference maker that everybody's making him out to be. I think it just comes down to their defense. I don't see that they've made enough improvements. They brought in OC. They lost John Abraham. I think that's a wash. I think that's a big step down, actually. OC doesn't play the run at all.
You're right.
And he's not even that great at getting to the quarterback anymore. Really hasn't been in 2 years. So and then last place, I would say Carolina, although I do like the direction they're going in.
I'm calling it now. If Hakeem Nicks doesn't stay with the Giants, he's going to Carolina next year.
I could see that, yeah.
And I'm not making him world shatter because everybody knows he's a North Carolina guy. But I could totally see that happening with him and Cam Newton and Steve Smith winding down his career. That team would be nasty.
Yeah. Cam,
I hope not. If Hakeem Nicks is listening, please don't do that.
Cam has all the talent in the world, but I just don't see him being able to put it together and really put a team on his back. I don't trust their running game enough. I think they have D'Angelo. Jonathan Stewart is already on the PUP list. They have Tolbert. I just don't think they have enough consistency back there. I do think their defense is going to be a little bit better. I really like their middle linebacker, Kuechly. I think he's a monster. I don't know if you saw that preseason game.
Yeah, he's a beast.
But he was absolutely dominant. I think he's going to be a really good player.
He was actually my Rookie of the Year prediction. Granted, that wasn't going to happen, but...
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. But yeah, I just don't think they're quite ready yet. So I would say last place for them.
Okay, we'll stick on the NFC. NFC West.
This is probably the best.
It's a coin flip.
This is probably the best division.
If I told you 2 years ago this would be the best division, what would you say?
would have not believed you. That's for sure. I would say first place, I'm going to go Niners, followed very closely by the Seahawks. I think they'll definitely get one of those wild cards for sure. Those are two of the best teams in the NFL, top to bottom. I think with the Niners, Kaepernick is a star. He lost Crabtree. They don't have great weapons, but I still believe him in any way. I think with his running ability, I think they have enough on offense. Harbaugh is a brilliant coach, and I think they potentially have another Super Bowl run in them. The Seahawks, I think losing Percy Harvin was a big hit for them. If you told me he was going to be healthy this year, I probably would have picked them to win the Super Bowl. But I see them kind of being at the same level as last year. A really good team who will probably come up a little bit short in the playoffs. After that, I like the Rams. I think
they did have the best division record last year, so I can't forget that.
I think the Rams are a pretty good team. It depends on Bradford staying healthy.
Absolutely.
That's for sure. But he's got some nice weapons to work with. They brought in Jared Cook. They drafted Tavon Austin, who's going to be a real good player. And their defense is young and improving. So I think they could be a good team, but not quite ready to take that next step. And then Arizona, I wouldn't expect much from them. I'm not a believer in Carson Palmer. Can't play worse than their quarterbacks played last year. But
ongoing list of quarterbacks from last year.
But I still do not expect big things from them at all.
Funny thing is, they were 4-0 to start the year last year.
They were.
That's
their
right.
Defense was playing.
Their defense
were
out of their mind.
Wasn't that like one of the most anticipated games ever too? The Rams Cardinal game that Thursday night.
And then the Rams beat them, and then you never heard from the Cardinals ever again.
Yep.
Which was funny.
I'm excited to watch their defense with.
I like their defense.
Matthew and Peterson. Now they're saying they may actually have Peterson play both sides of the ball.
Yeah, it could be interesting. Although you never really see that work out.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, that's going to be like one play a game.
Yeah,
that's an Arizona move.
Yeah. They have young players for sure. But I think it comes down to Carson Palmer, and I'm not a believer.
And Rashad Mendenhall, who was hurt all year last year.
I think he's done. I don't think he has much good football left in him.
I think Bruce Arians could help him out a little bit.
I think Bruce Arians is going to be fun, at least. Let's stay in the NFC right now. You said the Seahawks are getting a wild card spot.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the other wild card team in the NFC?
It's tough. You know what? I'm gonna go Tampa Bay. Like I said before, I think it all comes down to Freeman. I'm not the biggest believer in him, but I think if he's able to put together a good season, they have enough weapons on offense. Doug Martin is a beast. Vince Jackson is a great player. Their offensive line is going to be a lot better. They have both of their starting guards coming back. And like I said before, I think their defense is going to be really good. So I'm going to give them that second wild card spot.
Okay. Now we're going to flip over to the AFC. We have one lower division. I think it's pretty obvious who you're going to pick for this division.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Denver.
I could see him saying Kansas City right here.
No.
Spook us all.
I wouldn't. I'm not a believer in Alex Smith. Outside of Denver, there's not really much here to talk about. Denver's going to be awesome. Peyton Manning, you know what you're getting every year. The offense is going to be great with Welker. Von Miller can take 6 weeks off. They'll be fine without him. And then when he comes back, they know he'll be 100% for a stretch run. So I don't think we have to worry about that division at all. Kansas City has a lot of talent. You would hope they're going to be better than they were last year, getting number 1 overall pick as the worst team in the league. I think that was a little bit more of a freak thing because they do have a lot of talent. I think they had 6 Pro Bowlers last year. So they have some pieces to work with. But again, it comes down to the quarterback. And as much as Andy Reid has had success with his offenses, I don't know if Alex Smith is really the answer long term. So, I expect Kansas City to maybe win, 6 games or so. I think they'll be competitive, but I don't think they're quite ready until they get the QB situation worked out.
And the wonderful 2 other teams that are in that.
San Diego is pretty awful. I think Phillip Rivers is done, and I don't really think they have much else on that team. I don't trust Ryan Matthews. Their defense has not been good. So, and then the Raiders might be the worst team ever assembled. I honestly could see 0-16. So you want to put that down in your predictions?
We will. I'll put it down.
0-16 for the Raiders. I'm going to say they lose games by an average of 15 points.
Oh my God! Even
this
with
team
Terrell Pryor?
This team is horrible. I'm not a believer in Terrell Pryor at all. At least with Flynn. Not that he has much of a track record.
He had one game.
Right. Not that he has much of a track record.
He had two.
He has
one against the Lions.
Yeah. He has
Finished
some
the year.
No,
ability.
that's the game I'm talking about.
No, he also started the year they won the Super Bowl in New England. That was the one good game.
Oh, that's right.
He had that one good game in New England.
Okay,
they
so
lost.
he had two good starts. Sue me.
Yeah, well, he's proven he's not the guy. So they're going to Pryor. I think Pryor is going to have some nice fantasy value because he's going to be able to run the ball. But he is not an NFL quarterback. I don't think he has the ability to throw. So I think that team is just going to be horrendous this year.
Those two teams, San Diego and Oakland, have probably the two scariest running backs that you never want to touch when it comes to fantasy football.
They're both made of glass.
The sad part is that if you do get them and they stay healthy, it could be top league.
Yeah, it's possible, sure.
Top running backs.
But I'll say this. Ryan Matthews' sample size is smaller than McFadden's.
McFadden's shown signs that he could be really good if
McFadden had 1 year where he was absolutely dominant, and showed why he was a high first round pick. But other than that, he's hurt every single year, so you can't trust him. I drafted him last year in fantasy against my better judgment. I knew I should have stayed away, but he was the best guy on the board. I took him, and I regretted it immediately, and that's why I was terrible last year.
2 wild card spots, AFC.
That's tough. These. I'm gonna say. I want to say Baltimore. That's one, and I think the other one is going to be. It could be an ugly team. It could be an 8-8 team. I'm gonna go with Indianapolis. Just squeaking in. Just ahead of Cleveland and maybe Buffalo. That's going to be an ugly race.
Ugly race.
Yeah.
All right, Ian, before we let you go, February, he's playing at MetLife Stadium for the Super Bowl.
Nice.
In the blizzard. Blizzard. We said it. Was it with Andy that we said it?
Of course it has a chance of being snow. It's freaking...
No, not the snow. The Dolphins versus, Atlanta in the Super Bowl.
He was joking.
I'm going to say Broncos from the AFC.
What's with everybody wanting the Broncos to... okay. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't know.
I mean, I just don't see that they have really any weaknesses. I think top to bottom, they're one of the most talented teams in the league.
They're going to be too conservative in one of the playoff games, or Peyton Manning's going to find a way to screw it up. I hope not, but I don't know. It's just clockwork. And every year something stupid happens, and that they don't make it to the Super Bowl.
Sure, I mean, you could say that with Manning. He's as much success as he's had. He's only been to 2 Super Bowls, and he's 1-1. So, but I think this year they're going to put it together. I think having Welker in the slot, he's going to add a lot to that offense, and I think they'll be able to get there. And I think they'll go against the 49ers. I see them making another run, and if I had to predict, I would say that this year they get their victory. I would say 49ers over Broncos would be my prediction.
Okay. So you're going to have the Niners over the Broncos.
Yes.
Well, Ian, these will be posted for everybody to see.
Make sure you post 0-16 Raiders.
We will. Also,
it's my most confident pick.
Who wants to send us their predictions, we'll include them as well. Yes, we did for the hockey playoffs, things like that.
Yeah, we have a week away. So.
Yeah, so get your predictions in. We'll make a deadline of next Tuesday at 12 o'clock.
Okay.
Midday. How does that sound? Fine. You could email them to us, Facebook them to us, whichever way is easier. SNDPODCAST@gmail.com. SNDPODCAST on the Schmuck Sports Network on Facebook. Make sure you get them in by next Tuesday at noon so we can get them up first games next Thursday. Ian, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ian.
Stick around. We're going to play a little more Division 1.1 with a vengeance, and Dan and I will be right back to talk about our predictions.
S&D Podcast is in no way affiliated with, associated with, produced, or endorsed by the National Football League or any of its affiliates.
And welcome back to the S&D Podcast show on the Schmuck Sports Network. Once again, that was Division 1.1 with a vengeance. Dan, how about that show tonight?
Yeah, it was a pretty good show. I'd like to thank Andy and Ian for both coming on and sharing their predictions. Yeah. A couple of crazy predictions, but it was interesting, especially having Andy on, who's strictly our hockey guy, but he took a good valiant effort with us with the football. So hope everybody enjoys his predictions and everything like that.
Yes. Also, don't forget, we are doing, the deadline is September 3rd at noon. We are having, please share your predictions with us. You can email them to us at sndpodcast@gmail.com, or you can shoot us a Facebook message, or if you have our personal phone numbers or personal emails, just shoot them to us, and Dan will get it to me, and we'll get it up on the computer come, hopefully Tuesday night, maybe Wednesday morning. So help us out with that. But right now, Dan and I, we're going to do our predictions. We're going to start as far away from us as possible and go with the obvious division, the AFC West. Dan, who do you have in the AFC West?
Obviously, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to go with the Broncos. Their firepower on offense. The only questionable thing is right now how long their defense going to be able to handle the absence of Von Miller and Domerville at the moment. Von Miller comes back after week 6, so as long as they are able to hold down their defenses and they're Peyton Manning, they should be fine to win the division. The Chiefs should give them a scare a little bit, but it shouldn't be terrible. It should be the Broncos division no matter what.
I think the Broncos are going to win the division too as well, and I also agree with you with the Chiefs prediction. I feel like the fact that Andy Reid is there now is going to bring that excitement to Kansas City.
Exactly. They're the only team in history to win 2 games in the whole entire season, but still have 6 or 7 Pro Bowlers on, which is pretty remarkable. So last year was just one of those fluky years, and they just didn't like anything that was going on, and they just didn't believe into the system. So with Alex Smith and with that offense and Jamal Charles and Dwayne Bowe, they have a shot of making things interesting, but at the end of the day, obviously, it is the Broncos division.
Right. Alrighty, let's stay in the West. This is probably going to be, a couple years ago, this was probably the worst division of all time.
Yes, 7-9 won the division 2 years ago, and they actually beat the Saints.
And
yes.
But I think that this could probably be the best division this year, arguably, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
The NFC West. Arizona, I still think is going to be a 4 to 5 win team, but the other 3 teams, a lot of people don't like the Rams, and I'm actually pretty high on the Rams. I like their defense. I like what Jeff Fisher's doing there. It'll be interesting to see their running game with the lack of Steven Jackson this year, with no Steven Jackson this year. But they're still going to end up in 3rd because they have the other 2 teams there. Between the Niners and Seahawks, I'm going to give the Seahawks an edge for the division. I just think they're going to be able to pull it off with the Legion of Doom and defensive backs and Marshawn Lynch and Russell Wilson being such a threat. I just think that the Seahawks are going to take the division.
Okay, I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to opposite of the spectrum, and I'm going to say the 49ers.
Okay.
Honestly, if it wasn't for Kyle Williams mess up twice in the NFC Championship against the Giants 2 seasons ago, they would have been in the Super Bowl back-to-back years. So I think they have the best coach, the best defense. Colin Kaepernick is going to finally have a full year under his belt. The only thing I would have to say I'm kind of scared about is their wide receivers, but they will be fine, and I think they're going to win the division, but barely. The Seahawks are going to be my wild card pick, and the Rams, who did actually have the best record in that division, which is a scary thought, is going to fall in 3rd place. And the Cardinals are going to be a little bit better because of Carson Palmer, but they're still not going to be any damage this year. But I do like to say their secondary is up and coming with with the Cardinals, with Tyrann Mathieu and obviously Peterson.
Right.
So it's going to be a good division this year.
I also had the Niners as one of my wild card teams in the NFC.
Which I figured.
So, alrighty. Let's move south and stay in the NFC. This can arguably be the second best division in the NFL this year, especially with the return of Sean Payton to the Saints organization in the NFC South. Why don't you give your view on the South first, Dan?
On the South, okay. I'm gonna go the opposite direction as everybody's gonna think. I think that this year is gonna be the Saints' year to win the division. They're gonna find a way. They're gonna have their revenge on a lot of teams that they lost to last year. With Payton back is a completely different animal. Before he got suspended for the whole entire year, he was arguably the best coach in the league. Their defense is still shaky. Obviously, some people think Rob Ryan is one of the most overrated defensive coordinators in the game. Understandably so, but he's still better than what they've had in the past few years. So I think with them getting their heart and soul back with their coach, they're going to be able to win the division. And also the Falcons are going to be my second division wild card pick. They're also just too good as well, but this year there's going to be more riding on the Saints for what happened. They lost a year last year. So they're going to be a little bit more hungrier and more pissed off this year. So I'm going to go with the Saints winning the division. What about you?
I like what the Falcons have done. They added the running dimension with Steven Jackson. I think it was, 10 years in St. Louis of 1,000 yards?
Yes, he's absolutely a stud. But I just feel that the Saints are going to be more of a pissed-off team. And they're going to be beating off, and they're just going to try to defend themselves and be able to say, take that NFL for screwing us last year.
I think that one prediction with that division I'm going to make is the two games between those two teams could average anywhere of total points in the 100 range.
Oh, of course. They're two top 5 offenses in the league.
You could argue they're both top 3 offenses, to be honest with you.
Of course, yes.
Because you have Julio and Rodney on one team. You got Breeze. Just Breeze alone on the other team makes them a top 4 offense. But I think the Falcons are going to take the division again. I've been looking at the schedule. The Falcons have a little bit of an easier road to winning that division than the Saints do. I do, however, have the Saints as my other wild card spot. People are high on the Bucs this year. I don't really see any changes that they made to the team that you can say, other than Revis, that you could really say, wow.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. But their offense really is all depending on Freeman's arm. If he catches fire, then anything can happen because Doug Martin is a monster, and they have Vincent Jackson, who's also a stud, and they have Mike Williams, who's also a good wide receiver. So anything can happen, but they're still unfortunately going to be in 4th place unless Cam Newton just completely tanks it this year. I'm just wondering to see when Cam Newton is going to get that other wide receiver other than Steve Smith. Steve Smith, who's been a stud, he has an arguable shot of being a Hall of Famer, but he's starting to get old, so it's going to be interesting. It was 10 years ago when he was winning the Super Bowl. Well, not winning the Super Bowl, going to the Super Bowl and almost beating the Pats. So that's a crazy tidbit.
Here's a name. So while you're on that, here's a name that was actually rumored to be being released this week. Is Robert Meacham. I know he's a little overrated right now. But would you bring Meacham in as a second receiver to Steve Smith, at least for a year?
Honestly, yeah, they love Brendan LaFell a little bit too much, but I could see that. On the other thing I do like, well, unfortunately it's due to injury, so I'm not really liking the whole injury aspect of it, because you'd never want to see anybody hurt. I think this year with Jonathan Stewart being out for at least 5 to 6 weeks, it might help D'Angelo Williams actually get the running game going, and him and Cam Newton going, and not switching in and out. They are the most two, like, I've had both on my fantasy teams, and they are the most two frustrating players to have on a fantasy team. So maybe the two of them can get it going, and Steve Smith still is Steve Smith, and they find that one wide receiver that they can get going. And they also have Olsen in the passing offense, too, as the tight end. So they could give it a run, but you absolutely cannot know. They don't have enough to compete with the Saints or the Falcons. So,
alrighty,
another year.
Let's stick with the South. I think we'll go to the AFC, and I think I'm going to give the surprise right here, because I know a lot of people think the Texans are going to win this division again.
Okay.
But I think that Andrew Luck proved that he's ready last year. He showed, everyone thought, oh, what kind of rookie jitters is he going to have, blah, blah, blah. But he really took a bunch of guys that nobody ever heard of besides Reggie Wayne and turned them into a winning program. And I actually think the Colts have the opportunity of beating the Texans and winning that division. I have the Texans as a wild card, but I think the Colts are going to ride Luck, and they're going to have a decent running game this year, and they're going to play and win the division in the AFC South.
Okay. I'm not believing that just yet. I still think it's going to be the Texans' division to win it. Obviously, I loved the Colts last year and the whole Chuck Strong thing. I think, to be honest with you and to be fair with you, that's probably half the reason why they made it to the playoffs last year. They came together and they found a way to win those close games and carry it. Andrew Luck's going to be a great quarterback. It's going to be another year for them. They're going to win the wild card again and have to play in again. I do like the Texans. The only scary thing is Matt Schaub. Matt Schaub could be one of the elite quarterbacks in the league, like how Eli was 2 years ago and how Joe Flacco was last year. He can be that quarterback that can get hot, but he hasn't proved it. With Arian Foster and Ben Taylor, the running games, that is the best 1-2 combo in the game. Their wide receiving core with Andre Johnson, who is starting to slow down a bit, but he's still a great wide receiver. They're just so good in that aspect of the games. And their defense, who got hurt a little bit last year, but they're going to be able to pick it up again with Brian Cushing, J.J. Watt, who's just a monster, you know that. And their secondary is pretty decent. So
especially with the bringing in of Ed Reed.
And especially with bringing in Ed Reed, granted, who's lost a step or two, but it's still Ed Reed in the secondary. I still think it's going to be the Texans team. They should have carried it through the playoffs, but they choked at the end of the year due to injuries and other things. They were my Super Bowl pick last year, but I'm still going to stick with them going to the winning division, and the Colts winning my wild card for that division.
Okay, let's go north.
Okay,
we're gonna stay in the AFC.
Okay,
and the AFC North is interesting.
It's not your.
It's not the old normal, last couple of years.
Not the last couple of years is right.
It's definitely no longer the Steeler-Raven division.
No.
So why don't you take this division first?
All right, sure, not a problem. I'm gonna obviously say the Bears are gonna. Not the Bears. I'm sorry, wrong North.
Wrong.
The Browns are gonna be the last place team. Unfortunately, they still don't have enough to compete with these other teams. The third place team, I hate to say it, but the Ravens, they don't have enough firepower and everything like that. Enough firepower, and what's going on is they lost a lot of their quote unquote heart and soul players. For example, obviously Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, just a lot of players in the Super Bowl run. Oh, Anquan Bolden. Just a lot of players that needed to step up and make plays for that playoff run just aren't there this year. Of course, there has to be players to step up every year, of course, but I don't see it. I think the Steelers are going to be a little bit better than them this year, and they're going to make a wild card run. last year.
Who's going to make a wild? Who do you have? Steelers?
Pittsburgh's going to be my wild card team.
Okay.
They're going to be another team, like I said, with the Steelers, Saints. I think they're going to be a little bit similar to the Saints. They had injuries last year. They lost a couple of games that wasn't Steeler football. They have a lot of new faces on defense, but that's a good thing. Dick LeBeau is going to find ways to get them there. Big Ben's Big Ben. As long as he stays upright, they have a shot every single week. Antonio Brown hopefully continues after his awesome season last year. Emmanuel Sanders is also a stud. The question is how they're going to get their running game. Unfortunately, Le'Veon Bell is going to be out for a while. He would have been the main focal point of that running back. Unfortunately, Jonathan Dwyer got cut on cuts of the day, but Redmond's still a posable running back.
It'll be interesting with Dwyer because he was the leading rusher for them last season.
Yes. I was kind of shocked about that. I'm not going to lie.
They said him and Tomlin never saw eye to eye.
Okay, fair enough. I guess he wanted more carries. I had him last year, so I agree. And my division, I'm going to go with the Bengals, the hot team, the sexy pick because of the whole hard knocks. But Andy Dalton is set on having a good breakout season. I've always liked Andy Dalton, especially his years in TCU. AJ Green's a stud. We can all agree on that.
Yes.
Their defense is defense is great. I love their defense. Geno Atkins is one of the most underrated players in the whole entire game at the tackle. Giant fans know him because he lit up the Giants that game last year. And the running game is going to be okay. It's going to take a while for their prize rookie, Gio Bernard, and they have the law firm, Jarvis Green Ellis, as their other focal point of running back. And I also love my boy from Notre Dame, Tyler Eifert's going to, at some point, become a focal point of the offense as well with Jermaine Gresham. So they're going to have two stud tight ends, a lot of tight end packages. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the Bengals do. The only problem with the Bengals is I don't trust Marvin Lewis. Sometimes they don't do they'll get into the playoffs, but they won't make any noise some years. Maybe this year will finally be the year. What do you think?
Well, considering I have the Texans as a wild card team, and the Bengals usually play them, I do have the Bengals winning the division. But if they end up playing the Texans, it is in Cincy instead of having to go to Houston. So
yes, maybe
that can change the luck a little bit. The Bengals, I do think, like you said, they are the quote-unquote sexy pick this year. Dalton's got two running backs who can succeed. I think you said the guy from Notre Dame.
Eifert.
I think he's going to be a stud there.
Yeah.
One thing, I was watching college football this weekend, and they were talking about Notre Dame the previous shows, always produces tight ends.
That's the only thing they do produce, unfortunately.
Except for Joe Montana. But anywho, I think the Steelers ended up taking a huge blow by losing a lot of guys and trying to get younger. Yeah, they brought that younger energy, but I don't see them making the playoffs. I have the Ravens as my other wild card team. That's because Ray Rice, Bernard Pierce, and I like Torrey Smith and Jacoby Jones. I think they can both play really well. The key's going to be that third receiver because Anquan Boldin was a short receiver who can catch the ball and run, who's going to step up and take that spot for them. But yeah, like you said, the Bengals just have all these underrated players around. So they're going to be a fun team to watch. I know I love AJ Green. I mean, I drafted him last year, and each week it was 5 to 7 catches, anywhere from 70 to 90 yards and a touchdown every week.
Oh yeah, consistently. They also have a nice little stable of wide receivers that I forgot to mention. So that's always good as well. So they're going to be able to pass the ball around, and Gio Bernard is going to open a couple of people's eyes who haven't been able to follow him.
And one other thing with them is the fact that they have Pac-Man Jones, who I actually consider still a threat. We saw that against the Giants last year.
Yeah. course.
He's still, anytime he gets the ball in his hands on a kick return or punt return, he's still a threat, like he always was. So that gives him a third aspect.
As long as he stays out of trouble, which it seems like he's been doing, he is a very valuable threat. He could have been a Pro Bowler every year without the trouble problems, being suspended all the time. Yeah, I think he's finally growing up.
Took him, 10 years into his career to do it, but he's doing it.
Something like that.
All right, let's shift gears to the NFC.
All right.
And I'm going to take this one first because I like this division.
Okay.
I think it's going to be interesting. I think the Vikings are overrated.
Yeah, well, it's the Minnesota Petersons, first of all.
Granted, if Peterson runs for 2,000 yards again, they have a chance. And their defense plays well again, they have a chance to make
plays. Of course, their defense is good, and they have the best running back in the game. So never count them out.
Right. But my second team, my third place team in the North, is going to end up being the Bears. New system. I don't really see much behind Forte on the offensive side for them. Marshall, yeah, but he's really inconsistent, Cutler and Marshall. One week they could be the probably greatest tandem of quarterback receiver, and then the next week they're completely zero. And it's bad in Chicago when that happens. I think a lot of people think their defense will be better without Urlacher. I think that's wrong. I think Urlacher was always the heart and soul of it. I still trust Lance Briggs, of course, but like I said, I don't trust Cutler to be consistent enough. The Lions, I think, are going to be big again. Making the playoffs, no. Competing for a wild card down the stretch, yes. They're my number 2 team in that division, and as long as number 12 is under center in Green Bay, how can you go against the Packers?
I actually cold-hard agree with you with those division standings. It's really, obviously, you can't go against number 12. He's the best quarterback in our league. He always finds a way to make plays. They're a perennial Super Bowl contender if their defense actually shows up this year in the playoffs. Back-to-back seasons, their defense was nowhere to be found. It really goes to show offenses can only carry you to so much. The defense have to step up. As for the Lions, they were the most undisciplined team last year, and the way they lost games were the dumbest ways possible. And Schwartz is lucky to have a job still. The way they lost games last year. With their offense, the addition of Reggie Bush, with obviously Calvin Johnson's Calvin Johnson.
Yeah, forgot to mention Reggie Bush.
Matt Stafford's a stud. And their defensive line hopefully picks up from the last couple years, top 5 picks here and there. Hopefully they finally smarten up. They can get to second place. But if they continue their ways, this is going to be Jim Schwartz last year, win or go home kind of thing. There's no excuses this year on the dumbness of this team last year. As for the Bears, it's pretty much if their offensive line keeps Jay Cutler standing up, Jay Cutler doesn't get hurt, and they don't put him on IR, or Forte doesn't get hurt, they have a shot at making the playoffs and winning a division. Have a shot at winning a wild card, but I don't see it happening this year. Their offensive line still sucks, and Jay Cutler is just gonna be smacked a lot of times. I kind of agree with you with Brian Urlacher. He is obviously the heart and soul, but he did lose a couple of things in his game last few years, so he clearly was just a name opposed to being the Brian Urlacher of old.
He was also injured. I think it was 2 years ago.
Of course, and that's what I'm saying. They're going to finally have new blood to find a guy to fill in his shoes, but it's going to take a minute. But they also have Peanut Tillman, who's going to find a way to cause turnovers all around the field. So he's arguably the best cornerback in the league.
Do they play the Cowboys this year?
I don't know. Yeah, I know, right?
Last year they put all their turnovers with that one game.
They actually, they won. They were in second place last year, right?
No, they were in third place. Packers.
Oh, okay, so
Minnesota was in second.
They should play them this year because the Cowboys did finish third place last year.
Poor Romo.
so they should be able to play them.
Okay, and you have the Packers winning the division, of course.
Of course, yeah.
Alrighty. Well, now let's move to this area. Let's go to the East. Which East do you want to do first?
We could go with AFC because we're both gonna pick the same team.
Okay, I'll start it. I'll start the AFC East. I like what the Bills are doing and the way they're building with E.J. Manuel and C.J. Spiller. I think that if Stevie Johnson can get his head on straight, he could be a top receiver in the league, at least a top threat in the league. I do like the direction they're going in, so I do have them as a third team in the division because, of course, I have the Jets in last place because there's no reason to talk about them. Because everybody else does constantly, so we don't have to.
Okay.
In second place, another team I love the direction they're going in is the Miami Dolphins. Do I think Mike Wallace is the answer to all their problems? Of course not. Do I think he's going to be a big help to that team? Of course. They have probably the biggest injury so far for the season, which is Dustin Keller, because I thought with Dustin Keller that offense was going to be really good with Lamar Miller running back, Tannehill, and I really thought they were going to be a wild card team until Keller went down. But I see them finishing in second place. I'm going to say 2 games behind the Patriots who are going to win the division.
Okay.
That's my view on the AFC East.
As long as you have Tom Brady and Bill Belichick as the quarterback and the head coach of the team, there's no way they're not winning the division. With them, it's going to be them. They're going to find pieces to plug in, and you'll be Aaron Hernandez who, Wes Welker who, Danny Amendola, if he's able to stay healthy, is going to be Wes Welker who, because you always say he's a poor man's version of Wes Welker. So, as long as he stays healthy, they'll be fine. They have this kid Tompkins, who's a rookie. He might step onto the field and just explode onto the scene. Their defense is not the greatest defense in the world, but they do find ways to create turnovers, and they're always in the mix to go to the Super Bowl. Let's see. So pretty much, I have them. The Dolphins are in my second place. They're just the better of the crop of the 2 crappier teams in that division. Tannehill's gonna. It's not make it break it year this year for Tannehill. Tannehill's still a stud, but with Wallace and Brian Hartline, if you ask people, is Brian Hartline a 1,000-yard receiving wide receiver? 9 out of 10 people would say no. And
the really big football fans would say yes.
But if you asked a random Joe Schmo who follows them occasionally, would say absolutely no.
I understand.
So, they have 2 threats there. I think they're gonna make a little noise. I like their defense, but they do not have enough firepower to win the division or make a wild card because there's just too many noise going on there. So, I'm gonna go with them. I'm gonna say the Jets. I'm gonna take a little heat. The Jets defense is actually not that bad. Maybe they catch fire with Geno Smith. I don't know. But I'm setting myself up way too short for this one. It's going to be a coin flip between the Jets and the Bills. And hopefully the Jets find some magic happen this year, which is not going to happen. But I think their defense is going to pull out a couple wins that no one's going to expect.
Right.
So,
okay.
And with the Bills, it's interchangeable with the Bills and the Jets. It's the same description for the both of them.
Okay. All right. Start the NFC East.
All right. Where do I go? All right. Let's see. Eagles, they're going to be exciting this year, but they're still going to find ways to blow it. So they're going to be my 4th place team. 3rd place team, I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys. They'll find a way to be the Dallas Cowboys throughout the whole season, and Tony Romo is going to blow it at the end of the year like always. But honestly, Murphy's Law is one of these years he's going to find a way to make the playoffs. But not this year. I think they're going to make a coaching change halfway through the season. They already fired. They already took away coordinators and everything like that, and they actually took away his play calling duties this year to Bill Callahan of Raiders fame and Nebraska fame and the Jets offensive line coach for the last few years. So they're gonna take a step back, and unfortunately, I don't see Garrett lasting the whole season. They're gonna do the typical Cowboys. They're gonna pack a couple punches, then they're gonna get in a lull, and Jerry Jones is gonna fire him. That's what I think is gonna happen. And after that, it's just gonna be the Giants and Redskins division. To be honest with you, my heart says Giants and my brain says Redskins. It really comes down to RG3's knee. Just like last year. RG3 is one of the best dynamic players in the game. There's no disputing that. I cannot see Alfred Morris having as good of his year he has last year. Their defense still packs a huge punch. I still think if the Giants are able to play defense and don't have that second half collapse as they are notorious for, they can win the division. So I'm going to go, not surprise, but surprise pick, and I'm going to go with the Giants.
Well, a lot of people, that is a surprise pick, because a lot of people are saying, oh, the Redskins are winning it, oh, the Cowboys are winning it.
I think just knowing the Giants' track record, the years that no one expects or respects the Giants are the years the Giants shock the world. So I just like the train of thought, and I think this year will be the year the Giants shock the world because Akeem Nicks stays healthy. Victor Cruz is Victor Cruz. It hurts that Andre Brown is hurt for 6 weeks, but it could have been a lot worse. So the luck is on our side this year. David Wilson is going to rush for over 1,000 yards, and he's going to burst on the scene. He should have done it last year, but he was in the doghouse for fumbling in the first game of the year, and he didn't know the playbook. So that's rightfully so. Ruben Randall is going to be our best third receiver that anybody can ask for. He's going to make what Mario Manningham was 2 years ago, and it's going to run away with what that's going to be like. So we have 3 number 1 wide receivers eventually in our offense. So that's our key. We're going to be a top 5 offense, no question about that, unless Eli gets hurt, God forbid, no. If that's the case, obviously, the season's done. It all comes down to our defense. Like we talked to Ian, he disagrees with me, but I think our secondary is going to be a little bit better this year. And it all comes to our defensive line that is actually better this year. 100 times better this year. Obviously with JPP, hopefully his back injury doesn't pops up in the middle of the year like it did last year. From someone who going from 16 sacks to 4 sacks, obviously there was something wrong and he just didn't tell anybody. So he has to have a better year. Justin Tuck is make it or break it year. He's unfortunately a free agent. He is obviously one of my favorite players, and same with you. It is a make it or break it year, and I know for a fact Justin wants to be back in New York and finish his career. So I think he's going to have a big season this year as well. Kiwanuka comes back in the defensive line, which is his natural position. So he's going to be good as well. D-Monster, Demetrius Moore, is a stud in college. He was an absolute beast in college. So that's going to be a little bit of what JPP was his rookie year and his year 2. Maybe that can lead on to a huge NASCAR blitz for next year. They love doing the NASCAR package. So that's going to be good. And I love our defensive tackle position. They actually did not cut anybody other than Marvin Austin this week. So they have a lot of veterans on that team that do not give up a lot on the run, which is great, especially for our weakest part of our defense, is our linebackers, unfortunately. I think this year is going to be they actually step up and make plays this year. Most of them, it's their third year in the league, and Dan Connors, say what you say about Chase Blackburn. I love Chase. You love Chase as well. But Dan Connors is a much better middle linebacker than Chase. So we actually adding addition by subtraction kind of thing. And Herzog has nothing to do but learn from the Dan Connors as well. He did go to Penn State, and they are known, other than the last couple of years, is linebacker year. So I absolutely love that pickup, and I love Jaquan Williams. And if he stays healthy, he's going to be our linebacker. He's going to be able to run with any tight end in the league. And then I think our secondary, who's been shaky the last few years, I think this year they're going to finally step it up a bit. Unfortunately, the loss to Stevie Brown is going to hurt us, but Monday, I'm having a blank on his first name, but Monday is going to step up. He was a Steeler. He had to play behind two studs all the time, so he's going to finally be able to play with the Giants, and maybe we catch some luck with him. Obviously, Antrell Roll. He is the heart and soul of the team. I kind of hope he gets the captaincy patch. We'll see. I doubt it, but we all know he's the focal leader of that team, without a doubt. I think the Giants are going to be 9-7 or 10-6. That's how I see it this year. So that's how our division is going to be. 9-7, 10-6 range is going to win the division.
I have them at 10-6 and winning the division, the Giants, this year. I have the Redskins in second. I just don't trust this new conservative offense for them. I think that at the end of the year, you're going to see more of the high-powered offense we saw last year. I also see the final game of the year, the Giant-Redskin game, being for the division.
I could see that, too.
The Cowboys in third. Eagles, I don't think they're ready to take that next step yet. Still learning a new offense, but you never know.
Absolutely.
I mean, look at all those years in Oregon. They never had names. They just had the system.
Yeah, of course.
So
LaShawn McCoy is going to step up from last year and have a good year, so they might surprise people. I wouldn't be shocked at all, but just the way it is, I'm going to say them in fourth.
Okay. Alrighty. Who do you have? Super Bowl. Who's playing Marty?
The podcaster and me, unfortunately, not going to say the Giants, but we all know that at the end of the day, I want them. But I'm going to go 49ers, Patriots. The Patriots are going to lose. It's hard to say that with a straight face, but the 49ers are just a better offense, and they had a shot of winning last year. Granted, they got housed the first half, and they thank God for the power outage, but when push came to shove, they almost pulled off the comeback. And I think they're going to be there in the MetLife Stadium against the Patriots, and they're going to find a way to win. And Colin Kaepernick's going to win the MVP.
I think that Denver is going to end up running the ball a lot in the postseason this year. And running the ball a lot this year, and surprising a lot of teams with that. So I'm going to put Denver in the Super Bowl. I think the Seahawks are also going to go to the Super Bowl this year. So I have the Broncos and Seahawks, with the Broncos winning the Super Bowl, with Big Brother Peyton winning the MVP in Eli's house.
That would be
just
nice.
Like Eli won the MVP in Big Brother's house.
That would be nice. I just think the NFC is a lot better than the AFC when a push comes to shove, and I think the NFC is going to find a way to pull it out this year, unlike last year.
Okay. Quickly, who do you have in the BCS championship?
All right, the last ever BCS championship game, I'm going to have Alabama. Obviously, you can't go wrong not picking Alabama, back-to-back defending champions. And they're going to be playing against a heavily big underdog in Ohio State. So I'm going to say Alabama, and I'm going to say Ohio State. Obviously, Alabama, since the SEC is so much better than the Big Ten and everything like that, and a lot faster and stronger. I'm going Alabama with the three-peat over Ohio State.
I'm going to take, of course, Alabama, but I'm going to put Oregon in there.
Okay.
I think Ohio State's going to end up faltering at a game. they're going to go into one of those games where, oh my God, we're going to win no matter what type games, and it's going to be a huge upset. I don't know which one. I'm hoping it's the last one of the season when they play Michigan, but I don't know which one it is. And I think Oregon's I just think they're the best team in the Pac-12 or Pac, whatever number they're up to at this point.
Gotcha. I don't know. I just love Urban Meyer and their quarterback, so they're going to find ways to win this year.
Once again, let's thank Andy and Ian for helping us out with the NFL preview show. Don't forget to try and send us your picks, SNDPODCAST@gmail.com, and also on Facebook, you message us, or personal stuff, you can send it to us, of course. So let's go play a little more Division 1.1 with a vengeance, and the football season is right around the corner, and hope everybody enjoys.
Enjoy, guys. Enjoy your football.
S&D Podcast is in no way affiliated with, associated with, produced, or endorsed by the National Football League or any of its affiliates.